This cub made a choice that defied every instinct for survival, and its consequences would echo across the savannah. The afternoon heat in the heart of Africa was a physical weight. Under its oppressive glare, life moved with a slow, thirsty purpose. For the Whispering Wind's pride, the time had come to journey onward. Their matriarch, Nala, issued a low, resonant call. It was time to march toward distant water. The law of this land was simple, and it was merciless. The weak cannot slow the strong. One cub, Tito, had a coat the warm gold of the dry earth. Beside him lay his sibling, Zawadi. Her fur was a rare, snowy white, making her dangerously conspicuous and vulnerable to the sun's fury. Now she was still, her breaths shallow. The pride began to move. Kito's mother looked back, her eyes heavy with a sorrow she could not act upon, before turning to follow. But Kito did not follow. In a world ruled by the primal need to survive, this small cub made an impossible decision. He turned his back on safety, on family, on survival itself. He settled his small body in the grass beside Zawadi, placing himself between her and the vast, uncaring wilderness. Why would he choose certain peril? Immediately, Tito faced the brutal reality of his choice. Alone, the sun climbed, its heat shimmering on the horizon. Though desperate with thirst, Tito instinctively angled himself to cast his tiny shadow over Zawadi's sensitive skin. He gently nuzzled her, a silent promise in the crushing silence. The scent of his pride still hung on the breeze, a siren song of water and safety. Every fiber of his being screamed at him to run, to chase that fading hope. But loyalty is a force stronger than instinct. He stayed. Hours bled together under the scorching sky. Exhaustion pulled at him, but sleep was a luxury he could not afford. His vigilance was their only shield. Then a new threat emerged. A lean, opportunistic jackal slunk from the tall grass, its gaze fixed on the vulnerable white cub. Tito's body tensed. He was small, dehydrated, and alone, but a fierce, protective fire ignited within him. He stood over Zawadi, his juvenile mane bristling, and let out a growl that held more courage than volume. He charged a few brave steps, swatting the air. The surprise of this defiant stand gave the scavenger pause. After a tense moment, it retreated into the brush. The immediate danger passed, but Tito was spent. He collapsed beside Zawadi, his head close to hers, his watchful eyes never closing. As the sun began to soften into a deep amber, a new sound cut through the stillness, the gentle hum of an engine. Dr. Annika Rowe, a wildlife veterinarian with the Savannah Conservation Initiative, was on her late patrol. Her binoculars scanned the grassland, not for majesty, but for struggle. Then she saw it, a golden cub standing sentry over a stark white form. Her heart sank. This was a critical rescue. She knew a direct approach would panic the already traumatized cub. Stopping at a distance, she placed a bowl of fresh, cool water on the ground and retreated to her vehicle. Tito watched, conflicted. Thirst was a raging fire, but his duty was a chain. Finally, he crept forward and drank in quick, desperate laps. But then, something remarkable happened. He did not simply drink and retreat. With water still glistening on his nose, he returned to Zawadi and gently licked her parched lips, attempting to share the life-giving liquid. In that simple act, a wild heart chose compassion over consumption. Dr. Rowe saw it. This bond was the key to the rescue. When her team arrived, they worked with deliberate calm. A mild sedative helped ease Tito's stress without separating him from his awareness. As they carefully lifted Zawadi onto a stretcher to begin emergency fluids, Tito was placed where he could always see her. Their connection was the thread holding this fragile situation together. The race to the rehabilitation center was tense. Zawadi, diagnosed with a severe infection and raging fever, fought for her life in the intensive care unit. Tito, In a separate recovery pen with a clear viewing panel was a portrait of Anguish. He pressed against the glass, his worried whimpers filling the room. Then, crisis. Zavadi's small body convulsed, her temperature spiking dangerously. The medical team surged into action with cold compresses and medication. Watching through the barrier, Quito erupted in panic. He threw his shoulder against the glass, desperate to reach his friend. Seeing this, Dr. Rowe made a radical choice. Against standard protocol, she had the door opened. Quito entered not with chaos, but with profound purpose. He navigated around tubes and wires, settled his head beside Zavadi's, and began to purr. It was a deep, resonant vibration, a sound of safety, of home, of unwavering presence. And in that moment, Zavadi's breathing seemed to ease, just a fraction. That purr was a medicine no syringe could hold. Through the night, Quito remained a steady, warm presence. By morning, the miracle they hoped for arrived. Zavadi's fever broke. Her pale blue eyes fluttered open, and the first thing she saw was Quito. She made a weak, but distinct sound of recognition. From that point, her recovery accelerated. Quito became her constant companion, her furry nurse. Weeks later, 2 healthy, playful cubs were ready for their final journey home. The Pride was located miles away. Released on a rocky overlook, Quito and Zawadi stood side by side, sniffing the familiar wind. Then they descended together. It was Nala who saw them first. Her triumphant roar summoned the entire Pride. The reunion was a whirlwind of affection-head rubs, licks, and rumbling purrs. The circle of the Pride widened to envelop both the golden son and the white daughter he refused to leave behind. In the end, the truest law of nature was not cruelty, but connection. Family is not just those you are born to, but those you are willing to stand by. If this story of unwavering loyalty touched your heart, please like this video and share it with someone who needs to see it. For more tales of courage and connection from the natural world, subscribe to Winds of Thought.